How we doing, folks? Your host Moose here on the Pitt Panthers Football Network. We welcome you into the Week 7 Panther Nation around the NCAA recap show. Of course, your Panthers coming off the backs of a 31-14 victory over Boston College in Chestnut Hill, led by a very strong performance from the rushing attack. Quadri Olson, 115 yards on the ground. Darren Hall with a 100-plus yard performance as well. Each of those running backs had a touchdown on the ground. Kenny Pickett ran for a score as well and had 50-plus yards from the quarterback position. He also threw a 40-yard touchdown to Maurice French. And I think the only real takeaway offensively that has to be said about this game, two things. Number one, the running game for the Panthers is legit. Two fantastic runners. I mean, 90-plus overall for both of them. They're fantastic players. There's no doubt they're going to keep that up. 96 yards passing, though, for Kenny Pickett. But that's not really a horrible thing. I mean, he wasn't asked to do too much. With 300-plus yards rushing, you don't need to, but he is going to have to take better care of the football. 2 interceptions. They were both, thankfully, on deep balls, so they were almost like punts for the Panthers because they were basically 40-yard pass attempts that got intercepted, but he's got to be more careful with the football for the Panthers to win against, the tougher opposition that's going to come very, very soon with ranked opponents like Virginia Tech coming next week. But you can see Quadri Olson 115 yards, Darren Hall 114 yards, Kenny Pickett had 50-plus yards rushing if you take away the sacks. So great performance from all three of them, each with a touchdown. Really strong. 7 yards a carry for Olson, 9 yards a carry almost for Darren Hall. Two just fantastic performances out of both those running backs. Maurice French, of course, had the touchdown grab. It was an unbelievable leap and grab in the end zone. And the other thing to say is the Panthers' defense was fantastic. Boston College came in top 10 offensive attack in the country, top 5 passing game in the country, over 300 yards a game, and the Panthers shut them down. DeMar Hamlin with no interceptions, but a couple of sacks, 5 sacks on the quarterback. Sean Wolfgang, Ronnie Baker, Keyshawn Campamir Watt, each with sacks. Some deflections from Jackson Briggs, Hamlin, and Barry Jenkins had a big one, you'll remember, on a long third down play. So just really solid defensive play from the Panthers. They got pressure when they needed to. They did give up some rushing yards. You look at the BC stats, of course. They got some yardage, but only 130 yards through the air. They were averaging over 300 yards a game. They held Darius Wade to 130 yards on 20 completions. Bass did have 107 yards on the ground, but that's it. He wasn't turning a big carries, really, a 141-yard carry, and other than that was it. The Panthers just contained BC very, very well, and it led to an impressive victory. And they followed that up with an impressive victory on the recruiting trail. Because of this matchup, they get another commit, and it's another offensive lineman. We know the Panthers are losing 3 starting offensive linemen, and so they bring in the number 11 tackle in the country, Bill Matthews from Dale City, Virginia. Very solid run blocker. The Panthers had to fend off the likes of Notre Dame and West Virginia for his commitment. He's projected at a 72 overall. We're going to scout him and see what he actually is, and he comes out to about a 70. Good run blocker. His impact blocking is solid. Not great speed, but he's a good project. 70 overall, solid. Probably will redshirt for a season, and then he'll potentially factor into the Panthers lineup once he becomes sophomore, junior, somewhere around there. But a good pickup for the Panthers following their victory around the ACC West. Wake Forest 38-35 against Army picks up the victory. Virginia Tech blows out Georgia Tech 45-14, setting up a showdown with the Panthers. Of course, Pitt 4-1, Virginia Tech 5-1. They'll be facing off this coming week. NC State goes to 6-0. You'd expect they would finally get into the rankings this week following that victory over Syracuse. Duke beats Troy 24-21. Big upset here. Louisville 45-30 over Clemson. It looks like the Tigers' hopes of repeating or three-peating as national champions are probably dead and buried following that victory. They'll be lucky if they can even come back and win the ACC Atlantic Division title following that. So tough loss for them, of course. Around the NCAA, Oklahoma 32-28, big game there between two top 10 teams, and Oklahoma really staking their claim as a national championship contender, staying unbeaten with that win behind the strength of Kyler Murray. Penn State, easy win over Nebraska. Cincinnati knocks off Houston, so they'll fall from the ranks, the unbeatens, and should fall out of the rankings. Tennessee smashes Arkansas State. That's the end of their hopes to run that undefeated season again. 35-10 victory there. Mississippi State knocks off Texas A&M. A&M. Middle Tennessee State does stay unbeaten, hoping to be the Cinderella story from the group of 5 this year around. Washington knocks off USC, who falls to 0-6. Clay Helton certainly on the hot seat. You got to think he's just playing out the string right now for USC. I'm sure he'll be gone next year. Florida blows out Washington State. Bama escapes 21-14 over Kentucky. Notre Dame, we saw, but we didn't mention it, beat Florida State 31-26. So Florida State 2 straight losses. Notre Dame stays unbeaten and surely at number 1 in the rankings. Ohio State, Auburn, Georgia. Stanford wins a barn burner 48-45 over Arizona. West Virginia 24-21 knocks off Kansas State to go to 4-1, and UCLA blows out Cal to go to 6-0. They are certainly a national title contender. I think it's going to come down to them in Washington in the Pac-12 for a potential bid towards a national title. Players of the week, Jarius Moorhead, 2 interceptions for NC State. He's going to win ACC Defensive Player of the Week as well. Terrence Williams, big performance for Baylor in their victory. And then NC State's halfback, Johnny Frazier, with a near 200-yard, 3-touchdown performance as NC State throttled Syracuse, we know, to go to 6-0. Deshaun Kaiser back atop the Heisman race. He led Notre Dame with a just consistent performance over Florida State. Josh Rosen with a huge 4-touchdown, 400-yard performance. Saquon Barkley, 2 touchdowns in the victory over Nebraska. He's not getting a ton of yards, but he's putting up touchdowns. Darius Geis, 131 yards and a touchdown in his last game for LSU, but I think they were off this week. And then Lamar Jackson, 2 touchdowns and 300 total yards in the victory over Clemson, puts him right back into Heisman contention, especially after that huge performance he had against Pitt the week prior as well. Top 25, we take a look at Notre Dame, LSU unchanged 1 and 2, but Washington up to 3. Ohio State falls back to 4. They're just shuffling around that top 4 there. UCLA stays at 5. Oklahoma jumps all the way up to 6, staying unbeaten at 5-0. Bama 7, Louisville 8, Virginia Tech 9, Georgia 10. Penn State 11. Texas falls back to 12, following their loss down 6 spots. Clemson's back to 13, but they lost to Louisville. It's not like they lost to, some kind of scrub team. Louisville's up to number 8 in the country after that victory. Miami's 14, so a lot of ACC teams. Florida State 17 after their loss to Notre Dame. Tennessee, Stanford, Middle Tennessee State's up to 18 at 5-0 right now, looking to make a potential late bid for the BCS with an undefeated performance, maybe be this year's Arkansas State if they're able to win that. And of course, your Panthers are going to be in the rankings still, sitting at about, I believe, 19 coming into their matchup with Virginia Tech. And with that said, we'll check out this week's matchup. Cal heading to Washington to take on the undefeated Huskies. We expect Washington to come away with a victory there. They are a complete team this year. USC looking to snap their winless streak. They're 0-6 right now, and they head to South Bend to take on number 1 Notre Dame. I don't think this is going to be where USC breaks out. You can see they're like 90th or worse overall in every statistics. They're just bad this year. Florida State takes on undefeated NC State. This is a huge game for NC State to prove themselves. Number 2 defense in the country right now. And then, of course, your Pitt Panthers taking on the Virginia Tech Hokies, hosting Virginia Tech. Herb Street likes Virginia Tech to win. You can't blame him for that pick. It's going to be a matchup of, a real test between the Hokies' rush defense and the Panthers' rush offense. If the Panthers can move the ball on the ground, they're going to be able to control things, keep that Virginia Tech offense off the field. They've been very balanced this year. You can see they're averaging almost the same number of yards on the ground as they are through the air. They're the number 10 offense in the country. Panthers, of course, number 6 rush offense, and the more that rush offense is on the field, the more they'll keep the opposing team's offense off the field. And the Panthers been solid defensively. They just got to continue that kind of bend but not break approach like they did against Boston College, and they should stand a chance at pulling the upset against number 9 Virginia Tech, who, if we look at their results, just a tight loss to unbeaten Ohio State, 23-17. They lost to the Buckeyes. Otherwise, they blew out Eastern Carolina, blew out an FCS squad, blew out Syracuse 45-23, barely escaped against Miami, who's number 14, so 31-28 victory, a tight matchup there, and then they blew out Georgia Tech. So they've looked very convincing so far this year. The Panthers are going to have a tough challenge shutting down this Hokie offense, especially here on national television. They're led by Jack Click, the quarterback, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, but the Panthers not intimidated by quarterbacks. Darius Wade came into the matchup last week, 13 touchdowns and an interception. The Panthers shut him down. A couple of really good running backs. McKenzie's averaging 86 yards a game for Virginia Tech, and he's not even their best running back due to injuries that they've had. So very solid lineup, very deep. We'll show you that here in just a little bit. Kenny Pickett, of course, leading the Panthers. Got to cut down 2 interceptions last game. If he cuts down that, the Panthers should be okay. Olison's got over 100 yards a game for the Panthers. Darren Hall's averaging somewhere around 85 to 90 yards a game as well. The Panthers' two-prong rushing attack has been deadly and just a little bit better than Virginia Tech's. Rujo Lopes, solid receiver. Salim Brightwell's leading the way tackling. Sean Wolfgang has been a menace with 4 sacks. But we look, Trayvon McMillian, like we mentioned, he's actually the #1 overall running back for Virginia Tech, but he's got less yards than McKenzie. That's how good this Virginia Tech rushing attack has been. If we take a look at those guys in a little bit here, you can see they got 3 running backs of 90 overall who are all seniors who can really make their mark on the game. So they can rotate guys in, keep them fresh, and attack the Panthers defense in a number of different ways. They're all very similar. Good speed on both of those runners. Reed's more of a change of pace type of guy, but they're just unbelievable there. They've still got some good defensive talent as well. Mook Reynolds, of course, you can see they got some talent with Walker on the defensive line and Settle, 2 really good defensive tackles that could hurt the Panthers' interior line. And Terrell Edmonds, of course, at the safety position, just really, really good talent. There's Jack Click, of course, we mentioned his first year as a starter. He's averaging only about 180 yards passing a game, but he does have 10 touchdowns and to go against 4 interceptions. So he's done a good job of managing the game. You can see they got Josh Jackson, Huff, etc. In the backup roles. Now, running back is where we mentioned how dangerous they are. Trayvon McMillian, 75 yards a game, 450 yards total. Shai McKenzie, 514 yards, 86 a game. Marshawn Williams, 130 yards on the ground as well. They got 4 running backs of 90 overall or more. Just unbelievable talent there. They're, okay receiver. They got Carroll, Bradshaw, Diablo, all guys that can catch the ball. They're not stupendous talents, but they're good. Burke and Cunningham are very, very solid targets, and they got Durkin as well. So 3 really good tight ends that will hopefully see the field if you're a Virginia Tech fan. Of course, they're led by a couple of really strong positions. Their tackle positions are really good, which doesn't bode well for the Panthers. That's the primary area where they try to get, pass rush pressure is off the edge, so the Panthers will have to do something there if they want to pressure Click and force him into, some turnovers, some bad decisions and things like that, keep him off balance. But that's going to be it here, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think. Are the Panthers capable of pulling off the upset here? They are at home, remember, so they'll have that going for them. And they'll get the crowd into the game early. It's on national television, 8 p.m. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. We thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you in the Virginia Tech matchup. Hail to Pitt. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.